SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Whether you're looking to start a career with no student loans or change careers to land one of the happiest jobs in the world, yep, that's construction, Build Mississippi can help. Visit buildmississippi.com to learn why a career in the trades deserves another look. Buildmississippi.com. Your future is waiting.
Listening to the Rebel Report podcast, where it's all Ole Miss all the time. Here's your host, Michael Borky.
What is up, everybody? Glad to see you on this Tuesday night. Welcome in to the Rebel Report. My name is Michael Borky. I appreciate you being here. So today we're talking about a couple of things. And first is the most, at least to me, the most interesting soundbite that we have gotten out of Lane Kiffin so far this training camp. I will play that for you and we will talk about it. It's related to the NFL, but I think that there's a lot of wisdom in what he says, a lot of wisdom in Ole Miss's approach to training camp. And so we'll play that for you. And also, I've got a quick thought on the coaches poll. There's not much there. Ole Miss is a preseason top 6 team. They're number 6 in the coaches poll. They'll be somewhere around that as well when the AP poll comes out. There is a talking point that preseason polls don't matter at all. They just don't matter. Well, I think they kind of do. And I'll tell you why as well. Of course, we will get to your comments. So glad you're here. Welcome in. Please follow me, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, at Michael Borky, Borkey. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get them. I recommend Spotify, but they all work just fine. Just search Rebel Report, subscribe, and leave a rating and a review. And this edition of the Rebel Report is presented by the Gregory Law Firm. DJ Gregory of the Gregory Law Firm in Saltillo, Mississippi has got you covered for all of your personal injury, small business, or contract disputes. So if you've been personally injured, I hope it doesn't happen to you. I hope the day never comes where you have to use DJ Gregory services. It's the worst ad read in the world, but it's true. I hope that day never comes, but that day will possibly come. It has happened to me in the past. It could happen to you as well. Be prepared. Have somebody programmed in your phone that you know will help you better than anybody else can. Personal injuries, small business, contract disputes. DJ Gregory, Gregory Law Firm, Saltillo, Mississippi, 662-397-9799, 662-397-9799. Don't delay, call DJ today. The Gregory Law Firm presenting Rebel Report Live. So here it is now. I want to start with this audio cut, or it's video for you. Hopefully it doesn't get flagged. It shouldn't. But anyway, I'm going to play this for you because this is the most interesting thing that I've heard from Lane Kiffin so far in training camp, at least to me, because if you're looking for like widespread things that have happened so far in camp, I think that there's nothing to find yet. And in part because I don't think Ole Miss is in a hurry. We talked about position battles in the past. There's very clearly at least starting spots up for grabs on the offensive line, running back, stuff like that. I mean, we talked about position battles, and they are evaluating players every single day. That's what they're doing. But when you consider what they have at the start of the season, among other things, it doesn't seem like they're in a hurry. It's August 6th as we record this. They play Furman in week 1 and Middle Tennessee in week 2. They don't need to know who's going to be starting on the offensive line today, and they've had limited participation from some anyway in that spot. They don't need to know what their linebacker rotation is going to look like today. They don't need to know if it's going to be Bentley getting the bulk of the carries or a by committee approach today. It seems like there's not a sense of urgency in that department, and I think that's actually a very good thing. It's a more measured, relaxed approach. There's not like a desperation, and again, I think the schedule lends itself to allow them to do this to some degree, but they're in no hurry. When you listen to Lane Kiffin and the players, that they're in no hurry to finalize these position battles. They don't they don't need to be ready today. They need to get better today. And that's kind of the messaging. It's interesting how they're laid back is not necessarily the right phrase, but that's what I keep coming back to is they seem really laid back right now. They're working, obviously. They're getting ready for the season, but the approach is different. It's more professional. Lane Kiffin talked about that, and here's what he had to say.
We've had a lot of meetings and walkthroughs. Our format has changed over the years, especially a year ago to where we don't practice as much. We really have a lot more of a NFL model, talking to the NFL people about injury prevention and taking care of players and what they call a ramp up. The first 5 days, which is dramatically different than the way it used to be or that a lot of people still do. So it's a little frustrating because, for instance, in 5 days, we only practice 3 times. So that's a lot of meeting times and walkthroughs. But I think it'll pay off long term. We've had a lot of meetings and walkthroughs.
So him talking about the NFL, and sorry, I think it repeated itself for a second, but him talking about the NFL is not new, right? He's done that before. They do the pro mindset thing. He has referenced the NFL so very often when talking about the current state of college sports and so on. So hearing him talk about that's not particularly new, but it did stand out to me for a couple of reasons. One, you guys heard me talk about it during media days, and if you didn't hear it for whatever reason, I will very quickly tell you what I thought about the 3 players in the way they spoke at media days. To me, they sounded like professionals, and not professional media guys. I mean professional football players. Jared Ivey reminded me of listening to Cam Jordan, who's been in the NFL for 15 years, right? That's the vibe I got from them. It is very mature. And as a result, referencing and treating the program like it's the NFL works for players like Jared Ivey. He very clearly gets it. There was same thing with Trey Harris and also Jackson Dart, but there was this aura of, yeah, I know what the expectations are, but it doesn't matter if I don't get better. I mean, it's great that people think so highly of me, but it doesn't matter until I run better routes. It's great that people think so highly of this team, but until we go out and win games, it doesn't matter. It sounded all very professional. But this is obviously a step forward from messaging from the 3 guys you took for media days. This is not messaging. This is literally in practice, in principle, putting it into actual work. And when you listen to him versus listening to other coaches, you hear other coaches, and it may be the right approach. I don't know, but talk about, man, we just want to get out there and get physical. We just want to beat each other's heads in and figure out how tough we are and stuff like that, right? And then you also get back in my day, we did 2-a-days. In my day, I went to, going into my sophomore season, we went to this camp outside of Myrtle Beach, and the East Coast, guys, is not, I was telling this story earlier today. The East Coast is not like the Gulf Coast. It is black sand. It's dark sand. And by the second, we literally did 4-a-days. We did 4 days for 4 days. I'm not kidding. Practice before breakfast, practice, lunch, practice. Yeah, that's what we did. 4 practices a day for 4 days. But by day 2, we had torn up the field completely because it's real sand-based there. And it was this crappy little like summer camp getaway that we had for the week. And our offensive linemen's hands and defensive linemen's hands were burnt from how hot the sand was in practicing. So every lineman had burns on their hands from how hot the ground was when we practiced. Like, I'm only 32 years old. That was my high school experience. That was my football experience. Back in my day, we were tougher. Sure. But also back in your day, they didn't play 16 games. And that is what Ole Miss is expecting to do this season. The NFL, and doing an NFL approach where you're not banging heads twice a day, every day for a couple of weeks, where it's practice and then it's off, or it's practice in the morning and then the next practice is the next day, but in the evening, and there's meetings and walkthroughs and a lot of body recovery throughout training camp. Why does the NFL do that? Some old school guys, and some of you guys are listening probably that are old school guys, would think that well, the NFL does that because they're soft or whatever. No, that's not what it is. They are bigger, stronger, and faster than they've ever been, and they play more games than they ever have. It's body preservation. It's how can I make sure that guys are just as sharp in week 18 as they are in week 1. And that is a very difficult thing to do. If you spend weeks and weeks just beating each other's brains in, are you sure that you're going to be able to last 16 games, which is what Ole Miss is expecting to play this year, right? Because they would play 12. This is what they expect. I'm not saying they're doing this, but this is what they expect. 12 games, SEC championship, that's 13. They'll get a bye in the playoff, but to play in the championship game is 3 more games, right? Field goes from 8, or you play a game to get to 4, to 2, and that's it. So they expect to play 16 games this season. What is the best way to make sure that the entire team is sharp physically and ready for football in the middle of January and football at the very end of August? It's not beating each other's brains in anymore. That's how the NFL is able to do it. The greatest athletes in the world are on NFL fields. They are extremely healthy and ready to play in week 18. Why do they do that? Because they protect their bodies and they prepare them. They much better prepare them to play a long physical season as opposed to running the Junction Boys out there who only have 10 games this year. The playoff has changed preparation, I think, to some degree. And you don't have a month off after the season before your one postseason game anymore. You got to get right back into it. That's what they expect to do anyway. So we hear them talk about the NFL a lot, the pro mindset thing. It's been a theme of Kiffin's program. He talks very glowingly about the NFL. It's why I said I think that his next job will be in the NFL. But it fits his style. It's working at Ole Miss. The players and the way they talk, it resonates with the ones that they're able to get. And I think you have to kind of recruit a certain kind of kid to fit into their messaging and their program. The fact that, as we talk all the time about the depth that they have, where they have been able to get guys that know I'm not going to play much, but I will have this role in the portal NIL era, the player movement era, and Ole Miss has been able to amass the depth that they have from guys like Chris Hardy, who could start somewhere else. He's probably not starting. He's not starting at Ole Miss. He could have gone somewhere else and started, but they're able to sell, roll, and all of this stuff, and it all comes back to treating the program like it's an NFL team. They do it in messaging. They do it in roster building. They do it in the way they recruit. They do it with how they prepare for a season. And that's how NFL teams do it. NFL teams play 17 games in 18 weeks. Ole Miss expects to play 16 games this season. What's the best way to do it? The same way that the NFL does it. Lane Kiffin's running his aspects of his program the way the NFL does. It makes sense, and it's likely going to keep them healthier. So, very interesting stuff from Lane. That caught my eye, and we'll get to more with you after I tell you the podcast is brought to you in part by Advantage Business Systems. Check them out online. absms.com. Advantage Business Systems has you covered for all of your Mississippi office technology needs wherever you are in Mississippi. If you need tech in the office, tell them I sent you, by the way. You'll get a complimentary office technology assessment. So you just tell them what you need and what your budget is. They will find a solution for you on me. Advantage Business Systems, absms.com. The podcast is also brought to you by Priority One Bank. Let them make you their priority. There's one There's one right by the Topgolf that they're building very close to my house. So that's exciting. I'll get to go to the bank and then go to Topgolf. But bank with me at Priority One Bank. They make you their priority every single day with their online banking platform. It's a one-stop shop. You just need an internet connection. You do not need multiple apps to do whatever it is that you want to do with your money. Last thing. So the coaches poll comes out, and I know that, again, there are some people that think that polls are irrelevant. I don't, and here's why. I know that the college football playoff poll is the only thing that matters anymore, but preseason polls can help you do a couple of things. One, you can promote yourself off of them. You can send graphics out to recruits. It matters. You're on the ticker, on the bottom line, on ESPN. Your name being affiliated with the top 10 gets more people around the country paying attention to you, prospective student athletes and prospective students. Hey, I want to go somewhere that's got a good football team. Wait a minute. Ole Miss is preseason number 6. I've heard about the Grove. Hey, Dad, let's go visit Ole Miss. I don't know where I'm going to school yet. Let's go check Oxford out. So that does happen. I promise you that does happen. You guys know there's a direct correlation between football success and students wanting to go to a certain school. But also the people on the college football playoff committee are human beings. They see rankings too. When they're watching the games, even though they haven't put a poll together, they know who's ranked and who's not, and who's ranked where and who's not. They're human beings. That your existence ranked very highly on a preseason poll will help you absorb a loss because you won't go as far. If Ole Miss was starting at 16 instead of 6, and let's say they lose in Baton Rouge for their first loss, the fall is different. And the playoff committee people are looking at those polls, and it creates inherent bias. It can help you with positioning come playoff poll time. They're human beings. They see polls. Polls create bias, both with recruits and students, but also with what really matters, which is getting you ranked. So you got to win the games. That's what matters the most, but preseason polls can help you in a couple of ways. So we'll get to your comments for a little while, and then I'll let you guys free on this Tuesday. Yeah, welcome in. Glad to see you, Brandon. Glad to see you, my friend. Jackson Dark got featured on Barstool today. Interesting off-the-field jabs for clickbait. Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. And the next message, that kind of stuff is so irrelevant and not important, but sure, get some clicks. Who cares? Yeah, I'm not going to get into a college kid's dating life on here. I'm sure you guys understand why I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it's cheap and easy clicks for Barstool, and their blogs are intended to get cheap and easy clicks and traffic to their website. That kind of story is what Barstool is kind of founded to cover. It's fine. Jackson, it's fine. It's about as far as I can go, or as far as I'm willing to go on that story. You can't wait until October. I hear you, but don't bypass the September games yet. I mean, look, I know Wake Forest isn't predicted to be particularly good, but aren't there some demons that you Ole Miss fans? So I didn't know anything about Ole Miss when that game happened. I didn't decide that I was moving here and didn't look into going to school there until, January of 2010. It really is, when I actually started getting serious about it. So I didn't see that the way you guys did, but aren't there some demons that want to be exorcised with Winston-Salem, North Carolina? So enjoy that one too. LSU is going to be close to the top 10 in the AP poll. You're sure? Yes, they will. I mean, if they're 12 in the coaches, for sure. Helmet bias exists. My hot take of the day is LSU will not be in the top 15 by the time Ole Miss goes to Baton Rouge because they will lose the season opener. There's your take of the day. We talk about polls, but in all honesty, the only poll that matters is the college football playoff poll. When they start rolling out, AP won't get you to the playoff. It won't, but it can help. It won't, but it can help. I know I'm like 15 minutes behind on these. I've been thinking about the 12 teams you're picking for the playoff. You've gone back and forth, but right now it's Georgia, Ohio State, Utah, Florida State, Ole Miss, Texas, Oregon, Alabama, Penn State, Kansas State, Missouri, Memphis. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Not sold on Notre Dame, especially if they lose week 1. Especially if you think they lose week 1. I think they lose week 1, so I'm right there with you. A lot of people, I've said this before to you guys, but a lot of people seem to think that Texas A&M, you just put a W next to Texas A&M, and you are wrong if you think that you just put a W next to them. You can tell Kiffin really likes this team. Absolutely. As I've said to you guys before, he's very quick to criticize, and he's very slow to praise, and he has offered very little criticism of this team. And it's not you can tell the difference, right? Every coach at media days, every single one had great thing. They all love their team, right? Every single one. Kiffin is far less of a salesman in press conferences than the other ones. He likes them, and he should. You've seen Utah hype, but have to see Cam Rising produce after that injury. Also, Notre Dame just lost their starting left tackle for the season with a quarterback in a new system. Not a good start. Getting fancy with the video editing? Yeah, something like that. This software is pretty limited. I really have to use outside stuff to make it look pretty, and I didn't really make it look pretty. This is about this overlay is about the best that I can do on my own. I probably could dress it up even more, but frankly, I think that it's all it needs to be. So, I'm glad I figured out how to add that in there too. Hopefully I'll be able to do that more and more. The only problem is on YouTube, you can get copyright stricken if you're I can't put highlights on here. I think I can use press conference video because that is like fair use or whatever, but the highlights are not. So I can't put highlights on here for you. I will get demonetized, or the video will get demonetized if I do that. So I've just got to figure out the balance. I don't know. I don't read too much into YouTube. Maybe I should. But yeah. Between Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Utah, you're just throwing two of them in the Big 12 title. I think it's going to be Kansas State and Utah. You'll take bets on Alabama not making it this year. They have a possible 4 losses this year. That's just you. I would take the under on 4, but I would take the over on 1. I think they're somewhere 9-3, 10-2. Arizona, you're a little worried about. Yeah, a lot of guys coming back. Jed Fish bolted, but kept his roster together. Bama's definitely taking a step back. Nothing else is possible after losing the GOAT. I agree with that. Hot take, Georgia will lose 2 of Clemson, at Texas, at Bama, at Ole Miss, or Tennessee. Yeah, Georgia's schedule is pretty freaking tough. I'm not counting out Clemson in that game. I'm really not. I know that Dabo's kind of this is now, I guess, a political phrase, but he's kind of weird, especially in this new era, and he's rubbed some people the wrong way, but the talent is undeniable that they have there. I like Klubnik's upside anyway. Clemson might be able to run with Georgia a little bit. They might lose 3 of those. Now, don't get crazy here. The NFL is a completely different level of football. Some people don't think about it that way. Yeah, man, the people, it's so funny when I read people say, like, the NFL is soft. And look, I don't like the roughing the passer penalties and stuff. I understand why people go there, but until you can, like, get to field level and see what these guys are, then calling them soft is just kind of goofy. I mean, it's not 1984 anymore. Look at the physical abilities of offensive linemen. Offensive linemen are now running 40s that running backs used to run. I mean, you've got 6'8", 310 that can run sub 540s now. The speed in which that game is played is hard to fathom, and it just continues to get faster and faster. It's not the same game that it was, when I was 20, let alone since before I was born, when the Cowboys last won a Super Bowl. It's so much faster, and the guys are so big and physical. It's changed a lot, and so they have to do a better job of protecting their bodies because of the level in which the game is played now. And yes, exactly. Ole Miss could play 17 if they don't get the bye. It's absolutely possible. That's your fear of going to the SEC championship. If you don't win, it's pointless and puts you at a disadvantage for a playoff run. Absolutely, it does. You'd rather not go and host a playoff game than go and lose. Guaranteed. You are right. in this follow-up, though. If Ole Miss went to Atlanta, wouldn't that be some cause for celebration in Oxford? They've never been, and you are playing for a bye. That would be a significant milestone in the program. But at that point, you got to win. At that point, you got to win. You have the extra game. You've gotten 2 different double ads on this stream. Uh-oh. That's not good. I need to make sure that doesn't happen. If you guys are being oversaturated with ads, please let me know. I know I can adjust it. So please let me know if it's too much, because I can go back in and change that rather quickly. I leave it on the standard, whatever their standard is. And yeah. Most likely, if you're 5 or 6, if you win the first game, you're playing the ACC or Big 12 champion in the next round, which is way better of a draw. Absolutely. Here's the problem with Top Golf and advertising, Pat, is I don't think they need it. I think that they're going to be booked for months when it shows up. So, they're not really going to need me to promote them, I don't think. Here's the thing, David. So David says you may get number 5 if you lose the SEC championship game. You might get 6th or 7th. The Big Ten winner could get 5th. The Big Ten champion is going to get a bye. 100 guaranteed. The Big Ten champion is going to get a bye. They will not get passed up by the Group of 5 champion. Remember, it's only a Power 4 now. The Big Ten champion will absolutely get a bye. I guarantee it. 100%. Ooh, I like this one. We need to do bold predictions, more bold predictions on the radio show. We haven't done that yet. We already did that here. But you say, hot take here, LSU barely beats USC in the opener and still falls in the rankings a couple of spots. You've heard Neil and Chase talk about this, but how often is the 12 seed actually going to win? Over under 1.5 wins in 10 years? I'll go over, but barely. 2 or 3. 2 or 3. In 10 years would be my guess. 2 or 3. Not many, though. But their inclusion matters. Making the playoff it absolutely does matter. For sure, the higher you rank, the better you are if you catch an L, especially towards the end of the year, 100%. Lots of 2008 road game demons needed to be conquered. Wake Forest, LSU, Arkansas, Florida were all on the road that year. But they beat Florida. You're still holding out at 11-1, but you're not chalking up the lesser games at Arkansas or Carolina as auto wins. I think South Carolina is going to be more difficult than Arkansas. But if Ole Miss is who they think that they are, they're not losing those games. But no, I agree. Arkansas has no pulse right now. Absolutely no pulse right now. Three double ads now. Okay, I need to. I screwed up something. Then, if you're continuing to get that, I did something wrong. Let me see if I can change it. Sorry for you podcast listeners, but I've got to change that. There's no way that you should be getting 3 double ads in 28 minutes. That's just inexcusable. So I think I can adjust that on the fly. So hopefully I can do that. So hypothetical scenario, Ole Miss cannot win the national title, but is guaranteed an SEC title that is followed by a loss in their bye playoff game. Would Ole Miss fans be satisfied with that? Ooh, that's a good question. So if they win the SEC but get a bye in the playoff and lose to, let's call it Florida State in the Sugar Bowl or whatever, would Ole Miss fans be satisfied? Yes. That answer should be yes. Winning the SEC and getting a bye, I think that answer should be yes. Okay. I don't know what's going on with the ads. Sorry about that. Because nothing has changed there. That's very odd. Anyway, let's say they lost to Oregon. Then it's a successful season. If you won the SEC and made the playoff but lose to Oregon in the second round, so you would make the Elite Eight, if you will, and you lose to Oregon, yeah, that's a successful season. You won the SEC for the first time since the SEC championship game was implemented. The only way you worry about Arkansas this year is if you're watching the game and Arkansas is in the 2-minute drill to win the game and get into a 4th and 25. I don't think you got to worry about that. I don't think you got to worry about that at all. So here I have, okay, I've switched it to a more conservative ad experience for you. So there you go. Truly hope the astonishingly not understandable reality with regards to excellence with this team is, quote, 2 game-ending drops by defensive backs, encouraging defensive back. Wait, hold on. Whoa. I got to try to read this again. Truly hope that the astonishingly not understandable reality with regards to excellence with this team is, colon, 2 game-ending drops by DBs, encouraging DBs. This is certainly possible. The cowboy. Michael, you got to go back to the drawing board on that one. I love you. I appreciate you. But what? Anyway, went back and watched the 2022 Kentucky game yesterday. That was a hell of a game with a great atmosphere. Can't wait to see the stripe out again. See, you and I disagree. I think they should get rid of the stripe out. I don't like it. I think they should just go straight powder blue for Kentucky. That's what they should do. But anyway, I got to run. I know I'm cutting it a little bit short, but I've got to get out of here. I got to take care of. By get out of here, I'm not leaving. But I got to get out of this stream. I got a couple of things that I got to take care of. So appreciate you guys as always, and we'll talk on Thursday night. So see you Thursday night as usual. And looking forward to it. See you then.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.